What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Comedy Coach Podcast. I'm excited that I'm back in the habit of doing this, man. This feels pretty good. I'm glad that I'm able to record these for you. There's so many things that have been happening when it comes to understanding comedy in my personal life, and I'm just happy that I'm sharing these things with you. So, one of the main things that I've been learning in the past few years is, how do I know when I'm in the right mindset to do some comedy? How do I know that I'm ready to go out there and put smiles on faces, or to make people laugh on stage, or if I can flirt with somebody and make them laugh? Well, it really just comes down to how I feel that day. What's my mood? But most importantly, what gets me in those moods in the first place? Now, this requires a little bit of awareness. Well, it's actually more of like a balance between awareness and just letting it be. Your mood is a result on what you allowed to get you there in the first place. So if this podcast explores some of the ways, even if it's just a little bit, that you can elevate your mood, I think it's a job well done. For a whole episode, why not? Maybe as I explain it to you, I'll get to understand it better myself. So this podcast is going to explore just that. We're going to find out how to align ourselves with the comedy we naturally have within us. And you know it's there. Not too long ago, we were talking about when you're in a good mood, all that funny stuff just happens. We're going to go a little bit further this time around. So if you're the kind of person that wants to tune themselves into a state of mind where you know you and others can get to enjoy your sense of humor in most situations, this podcast is for you. All right, so let's find out, how does comedy alignment, and then we're going to use that as the topic. Comedy alignment, I think that's good. How does comedy alignment happen? Well, I listed 3 things for you. The first one is, you got to remove yourself from the critics. Most importantly, if you yourself are your own critic. You know what I'm talking about. The voice that makes you think that you're not going to be funny if you say this, or if you did try it and it didn't work. That voice that tells you don't do it again. That. As well as the people in your actual real life that you notice are being critical of you trying to have fun or trying to use your sense of humor. Or in my case, when I try to do stand-up comedy, all the people that try talking me out of it. Secondly, we're going to look into these kinds of commentaries and what it means when you actually tune into that, what it does for your confidence and what it does to your comedy overall. And lastly, we're going to be talking about enjoying the engagement of using your sense of humor, because that's where the fun is. What's the whole point of using your sense of humor if you're not having fun and sharing it with others? So what if we were able to identify the things that prevent you from having said fun, and how can we attune ourselves in order to have the fun in any moment? What would you be able to do with that ability? Would you know, maybe today I won't be funny, or would you know I'm going to be hilarious today? Or even better, would you know how to put yourself in a hilarious mood, even though you thought differently earlier? That's where the real magic comes from. You're feeling grouchy, you flip it and make it funny. You're feeling sad, you flip it and you make it funny, right? So I learned this the hard way. And if I can help you get a better understanding to learn this process, I think it's a job well done, man. Because let me tell you, when you get started in comedy, even just trying to be funny or using your sense of humor, or you try to land a joke, or you try to post something funny, you're going to face a lot of criticism at first. Anytime you embark in anything like that, people just see it. They saw how you were before, or they see you in a different way, and they just try to shun it. I wasn't always confident with my sense of humor. But when I noticed this behavior, not only in others, but in myself, that's when I was really able to tune into my sense of humor in a much more effective way. Because there will be people out there that will try to sabotage any sort of fun you're having. And you yourself could be the person sabotaging that. So notice, not only just in comedy, I mean, just notice in general, when somebody posts something and they're having fun, or they're just being honest, or they're just trying to have a hot take or whatever, look at the comments. Look at all that negativity. Imagine yourself doing that. And I want you to notice the people that do that, let's say in the workplace or in your social circle or even in your family. Because the whole objective of this is to knock you off balance in having the fun or in enjoying yourself. So that's what I mean by the alignment. You're trying to align yourself with a playful mood or like a funny state of mind or some sort of comedic way of describing something, and then someone just knocks you off of that, and it could be even yourself. So once I learned this, I just undermine it. I undermine it in as many scenarios as I can because, like I said, it comes in different places. It comes inside of you, it comes outside of you, it comes online. People you love do this to you, right? So if you categorize it and you know it's coming from that, you can then be more competent creating comedy because you're completely removing yourself from that. And there's a lot less friction when you try to be funny, knowing that you don't have to take that in and make it an obstacle while you're just trying to have some fun. Another way to look at it is you can also see it as feedback, not only on what certain people find funny in a general sense, but also why these people don't find it funny. Sometimes you'll notice that if your sense of humor is fine-tuned and someone comes around and just tries to like make you feel like it's not, you realize that it's other people that don't have a sense of humor and that they're coming from a bad place while you're coming from a good place. This is one of the biggest insights I've had in my confidence when it comes to doing comedy in any way, conversational, on stage, online. And you can use this to your advantage because this allows you to kind of find the sweet spot where you're not just doing it for yourself per se, but you're also not doing it for other people either. And once you find that sweet spot, you're going to be creating some great content. But in order to find that spot, you got to get rid of the criticism so that you can experiment your way into that. And so, like I said, this podcast is to show you how to do that because it's not always that obvious or as easy. So in this podcast, we're going to explore three things. We're going to explore criticism, the commentary of that criticism, and how to align yourself so that it doesn't matter. And once you get these obstacles out of the way, you'll see that you're able to get on a trajectory that'll grow your own comedic voice at your own pace. So if you'd like to be aligned with your sense of humor or your comedy, to get in the right mindset, you have to be able to see where the criticism is coming from. Is it coming from inside of yourself, which is probably not as obvious as it may seem, or is it coming outside of yourself? Now, if it's somebody that you know that's criticizing you or trying to keep you down while you're trying to use your sense of humor, it's best just to do what I call the critical exit. If it's your own voice, something inside of yourself that you've convinced makes a legit case as to why you're not funny, that inner voice is just an average of all these people that made you believe that you're not funny enough to be considered a comedian or to use your sense of humor in any way you'd like. Now, if you can identify where that criticism is coming from, you can always do what I call the critical exit. Because if you stay in that conversation, you can't be funny, or at least not as funny, because your bandwidth is taken up. Because if you're giving attention to this criticism, what'll end up happening is your attention only has so much bandwidth, and if you fill it in with criticism, you can't be as funny because you're too busy giving this voice or this feedback attention. And then this puts you in a position where you want to self-evaluate yourself, you want to plan ahead so you don't mess up, you want to monitor what people are feeling or what they're thinking, even though you may not be accurate in predicting that, and you might even end up judging yourself, or you think that other people are judging you. And so this steals your bandwidth and you won't be able to give as much attention to the creativity and the fun and the playfulness of being funny. And this can be very draining. Be aware of all of this stuff so that you know it's time to exit it. Remember, this is very normal. Everybody feels some sort of criticism one way or another. But don't let it sabotage your ability of being funny because you need as much available signal in order to bring in your sense of humor at your command. So the next thing you need to consider in order to be aligned with your comedy is you have to know the difference between what is noise and what is signal. Is it a signal to get you better in the moments where you need your comedy? Or is it noise that prevents the comedy from even happening? And remember, when you are present, you're able to see what benefits you in real time in the playfulness because you're already there. But there's certain commentaries or certain thoughts or things that get in the way that knock you off of that presence and then prevents you from having fun in the moment. And sometimes it's not really that you need to be more playful or be more present or be more funnier. It's because you're bringing up the volume of that commentary that throws you off your center. Because if you do it just right, turning down that volume of the negative commentary that you perceive makes your natural sense of humor get even louder without you even having to turn it up. It just shines on its own because there's no friction there. So when you're turning down the noise, your sense of humor goes up on its own because you don't want to do it where you got to drown out the negativity by getting more obnoxious or louder or, where you got to be performative in order to try to come off funny. All you have to do is put yourself in a position where you have full control of this noise that's preventing you from naturally shining with your comedy. So let's do some examples about what you can consider as a signal when you are in that comedic state of mind. You go by your first thoughts. You trust your instincts and you feel alive while you're doing it. You enjoy the conversation. You're playfully bantering with your date. You're riffing on stage or you're having a great conversation on a podcast. You just feel like the playfulness happens on its own because you're not stuck in your head with things like, oh, maybe that was dumb, or maybe I should have said it better, or what if this joke doesn't land, or maybe I should explain in order to not be offensive to anyone. All that is noise, and you got to get that out of your head, or at least bring it down a notch so that you can see the signal by being present. Okay, so here's where it gets a little tricky, and it takes a very special kind of mastery to get to this point. But I'd like for you to be aware of this, no pun intended, in order for you to kind of get it if you ever see it happening. And that is awareness without narration. I'm always talking about being present, being in the moment, enjoying what's happening, being engaging, but you don't want to be so in your head while it's happening. It just needs to flow out of you naturally. So what do I mean by having awareness without narration? Sometimes, in order for something to be really funny, you need to sense it first. You need to enjoy the feeling of the moment. Anything at all. There's this very interesting mindset called autotelic mindset, where you're enjoying the process of anything without there being a means to an end, meaning there's no agenda, there's no result you're looking for, there's no real reason why you should be enjoying it. You just are. And that goes with anything, mopping the floor or doing laundry. When you're in autotelic mindset, you're just enjoying whatever you're into at the moment. And the more you are at doing that, the better you are at sensing experiences, especially when it comes to comedy. Some of the great writers say that whenever they have a very special moment, they don't try to put it into words just yet. They want to feel it as much as they can. So when they do make the time to write it out, they're able to make it even better just by memory. So to go even further, let's say you're having a really funny moment happening. Instead of commenting about it or describing it or judging what's happening or being critical on a situation as to, why is it so playful or why is this funny? This puts that moment into an abstraction. When you pause to describe something while it's happening, it then goes into this context of it goes without being said. And then it either pauses the moment or doesn't make it as good as it could have been because you're trying to capture it in a way that's not really necessary because you can continue enjoying it. So feel the sensation first. And the reason why I say this is tricky is because it's kind of like what came first, the chicken or the egg? What came first, the awareness or the sensation, right? So practice just being in the moment and practice it, especially when it's happening very quickly. Let's say you're on stage and somebody heckles you. Practice going into the sensation of enjoying the heckle rather than going in your head and, oh, what does this person mean by, you know what I mean? So sensation is naturally occurring, but Don't make it an impulse to describe it. Just go with it. Just engage with it and enjoy it. And if you're really good at this, you can even enjoy it if it's a negative sensation. So when you have this sort of mastery when it comes to being present and going with the flow or being autotelic, this goes into your presence, your flow state, and your playful confidence. And this is a really, really optimal way to get that comedy alignment going for you. All right, so this is the part of the podcast that I really enjoy called AI emails. Here's email number 1. I kill my own jokes before anyone else can. Hey, Manny, I've been noticing something and I'm not sure if it's normal or if I'm just in my own way. Anytime I'm about to say something funny, especially around people I don't know well, there's this split second where I hear myself thinking, this is dumb, or that's not funny enough. And then I just don't say it. What's frustrating is that I'll hear someone say something similar or even not as funny, and people laugh. And I'm sitting here thinking, that was basically my thought, or I had a better one than that. It feels like I'm pre-rejecting myself so no one else gets the chance to do it. I don't even know whose voice it is. It doesn't feel like one specific person, more like a general crowd in my head. Do you see this a lot with people who are trying to be more comfortable being funny, or is this just something I need to push through? This is very common, especially when you're getting started and making people laugh. Everyone has a different comfort level when it comes to blurting something out that they find amusing, but you need to exit the inner critic here, because I can tell that this crowd that you're describing is made up or in your imagination. And see if you can figure out who these people are. Have you met these people before? This imaginative person or group of people? Can you put a face on them, or can you describe them, where they come from, how long you've known them for? Because once you start putting an identity or some sort of something that it makes it a little more tangible, the more you'll be able to see that this is all just your imagination. And you made it all up, right? Even if you're very specific. That's impressive, actually. Instead, use that creativity to be funny and just say what you need to say. A really good thought for me that allows me to just say the thing is try to amuse yourself first. Don't say it for the sake of getting laughter from someone else. Be present and in the moment so that you can say it, so that you can laugh about it, whether it lands or bombs. It's funny, and you went through it. You made the decision to say it. So amuse yourself. Email number 2. I feel funny inside, but quiet out loud. Hey, Manny, I've been listening to the podcast, and something you talk about keeps hitting close to home. I feel like I'm funny when I'm relaxed, like with close friends or when I'm not thinking about it. But the moment I become aware that I'm being watched or evaluated when I try to be funny, it's like my brain fills up with this commentary. I start thinking about timing, tone, whether I've already said too much, if the joke was worth it. And by the time I'm done thinking, the moment is gone. It's not that I don't have things to say. It's like the volume on my funny gets turned down and the volume on my analysis gets cranked all the way up. Is this a confidence thing, or is there something else going on here? You described it exactly like I would describe it. It's like picking up a radio signal. Not necessarily a volume. However, if the volume for the commentary throws you off, just by tuning it down, you can get a better and more clearer signal of the things that make you funny without you having to go on blast with it. So let's picture the difference between volume and signal here if our sense of humor was a radio. Picture the signal being a bunch of radio stations where you are the DJ, you are the commentator. You are pretty much the only person that's tuning into these radio stations. So you might as well make a conscious decision to say, well, I'm not going to tune into that right now. Let me go to another channel. But sometimes the commentary can be very loud. So in that case, just consider tuning it down a little bit. Let me just tune it down so that I can get a clearer sense on where the good commentary is coming from, so that I can tune into that a little better. And with time, you'll be able to progress and be able to go into that channel that allows you to just say the funny stuff without you having to think too much about it or being debilitated by some commentary that's also imaginative. So let's put it like this. If you have the ability to use your imagination to come up with negative commentary, you have the ability to also come up with positive commentary that you can tune into and choose as a signal when you're in the moment of being funny or wanting to use your sense of humor or being playful and being present. It's the same mindset. You're just choosing one over the other. Email number 3. I overthink moments instead of enjoying them. Yo, Manny, this might sound weird, but I feel like I'm constantly narrating my own life. When something funny happens, instead of just being in it, I'm already thinking about how I'd explain it later, or whether it's funny enough to even mention. The strange part is that when I do try to tell the story, it never lands the way it felt when I was in the moment. It's like the humor evaporates as soon as I start explaining it. I notice that when I'm fully immersed in something, like playing a sport or hanging out with my kids, I'm way more playful and funny without trying. But the second I become too self-aware, it's gone. How do you stay in the moment without losing the ability to actually communicate what happened later? So this is the part that always gets tricky. It's almost like saying, don't think of a pink elephant and then you think of it, right? If you're having a really good moment, try not to think and enjoy the moment. It's the same thing. But the good news is you're naturally capable of feeling a sensation. You are naturally capable of feeling an emotion and going with it and enjoying it. And if you get really good at this, you can even enjoy it when it's not necessarily a beneficial one. Meaning, if you're getting upset, you can play along with that. If you're getting sad, you can also play along with that. So it becomes an awareness of not being aware. So, like I said, this is a more of a difficult way of describing this thing that is being present and not being hyper aware or being too self-conscious. But it is very possible. And the better you are at being in those moments and really appreciating it for what they are and just going deep without having to describe it or without having to narrate it or without having to be like, oh, it's happening here and now. It doesn't throw you off as much, and you can really immerse yourself in that and enjoy it to the point that, let's say you do make time to write about it later. When you go off the memory from that sensation, the words and the language you use to describe it are way better. And the same goes with comedy writing. If something that is hilarious, that is happening in real time, rather than stopping and saying, oh, let me write that down, which a lot of comedians do, I'm sure. I myself am included. But if I really enjoy whatever is happening that is hilarious and I try to describe it later when I make the time, it turns into a full bit. Instead of it being like a one-liner, it ends up being like a 5-minute bit because of how deep I can go in that sensation or what I remember of it. So there you have it. Comedy alignment comes mostly from just removing the friction of using your sense of humor or saying the thing or having fun or enjoying the moment or however you want to describe your sense of humor. And if any of these emails felt familiar, here's what's really happening. It's not that you're bad at being funny. It's just that you're spending too much mental bandwidth on these things. Like there's energy in your mind to carry so much information, right? That's why you forget things, you remember things, you go off topic and, you go on autopilot. But if instead you use that energy to enjoy the situations without it having to be sucked away from the critics or from the commentary or from the narration of being aware and in the moment, you then actually find where your humor is because you're not worried about these things anymore. You're able to appreciate the fun parts of you. So again, the problem isn't your sense of humor. It's the noise all around it, preventing you from tapping in. And comedy coaching isn't about teaching you jokes. It's about clearing that mental bandwidth so your natural funny can just shine on through without you having to force it, overthink it, doubt it, or shut it down before you even get a chance to express it. And if you want help reducing the noise instead of fighting it and learning how to stay present, playful, confident, doing your own thing, just reach out. You don't need more confidence. You just need to get rid of the things that prevent you from tapping into that signal. So visit MannyGaravito.com and let's get you back into the moment where the funny already exists. Thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Check out the YouTube, all our socials. Once again, the website is MannyGaravito.com. I hope you really enjoyed this. Go out there, start fine tuning your comedy, share those smiles. But most importantly, don't forget to laugh every day yourself. See you next time.